3, 2, 1. Masterclass pasta.
Hello, Chargers. Welcome to the Terry home. This is Mrs. Terry, your librarian. Jasper's here. He wants to say he's missing his kindergarten friends as well. We hope you guys are all doing okay and using this time to spend some time together as a family, catch up on your reading, right? So today I'm going to show you how to make homemade pasta. I'm going to turn my pasta into ravioli, but I'll show you at the point where we get to where you can turn it into spaghetti, fettuccine, bow tie pasta. It's a little out of my range right now. So we're going to get started with the dough. And so what I have here is 2 cups of all-purpose flour. So we're going to put that in here. And then in here we have our 1 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So that's going to go in. And now we're going to whisk that gently to combine the flour and the salt. When you start whisking, you'll kind of make a little well in the middle. And I don't know why, but every pasta recipe does this pretty much. So once you make your well, then we're going to take our eggs. And we're going to do 3 eggs. Now, I like for my eggs to be room temperature. Otherwise, they can be really cold. And when you get in here with your fingers, that is not really fun. So room temperature eggs. A real chef would tell you never crack your eggs over your bowl in case you get shell in, that you should always crack it in a separate container. But we don't really follow those rules around here. So once you get your eggs in the middle of your flour and salt mixture, then you just get in here with your hands, break up those yolks. It gets messy, but we don't really care about that around here. Jasper, can you put this other white bowl in the sink for me, please? Right there. Thank you. I have my twin nieces here. No, we did not grow extra members of our immediate family, but we have Grace. She's working on step 3 of this process. And then Sophia, twin sister, is working on the camera. So they're helping us out here today.
Oh, by the way, they're my cousins.
Yes. So we are mixing together. As soon as this starts to come together, it still looks a little crumbly. That's okay, because there's not a whole lot of moisture in here. Some recipes will call for water, but that's not very Italian. Real Italian recipes are going to call for olive oil instead of water. So Jasper, will you grab this little cup of olive oil right here? We're going to add at this point 2 tablespoons of olive oil. So we're going to add that in and again start mixing that in. That's going to make for a richer pasta. And one of the tricks about pasta is, or anytime you're working with flour, really, whether it's cookies or cake or dumplings, if you're making chicken and dumplings or pasta, the more you work it, the tougher it's going to be. So what we're going to do now is we're going to bring it out of the bowl to the granite countertops, which have been sanitized. And we're going to knead this for about 5 minutes. You can see, I mean, it's not a clean process. We're going to just start folding it in on each other like this. And we're going to pick up these extra bits. Don't cry over some lost bits, because I'll tell you though, this doesn't look like a whole lot of dough. This is going to make ravioli for days and days. So my grandmother is the one who taught me really how to work with dough, whether it's, you know, pie crust, or her her specialty was chicken and dumplings, North Carolina style. So she said, the thinner you get it, you want to be able to almost see through it. So that's going to be our goal here. So I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me knead this for 5 minutes. We've done what all good cooking show hosts have done, and we've already done that. So we are ready to go. So I'm going to set that back down here. And we're going to come over here. We're going to wash our hands, get all that off. So over here, I'm going to show you two different ways to do this. Hold on, we have a question from the audience. Do you want a snack?
No.
What do you want?
This is
Oh, our water is boiling. Jasper has informed me. So we have a pot of boiling water over here, and then here we have our Alfredo sauce. That's what we're using today for our sauce. So that is there. We have here the pasta maker. Now this is a KitchenAid attachment. They do have pasta makers too that you just sit on the counter and you crank it. This one does really all the work for you. And then we also have the rolling pin here. Now this is annoyingly lime green, but this is a non-stick rolling pin. I have one that was handed down from me from my great grandmother, but I don't use it because it's wood and everything sticks to it and wood is porous. This is silicone, so it's much, even though it's hideous to look at, it's much, much easier to use. So here is, this is about half of what we've made before, and I'm going to show you how to roll this out, and I'll show you first with the roller. Now, if you have granite countertops, do not be afraid to use them like this because it's literally what they were made for. So we're going to dust it in just a little bit of flour. You don't want to add too much, but you do need this to help it keep from sticking. But the more flour you add, you're taking away from the tenderness. It's making it tough. Now, the whole reason we let the dough sit for 30 minutes after it's kneaded is to let the gluten and the flour kind of rest, because then again, that's taking it from being tough to tender. Okay. Now we're going to roll it both ways. All we really have to do, again, is get it pretty thin. It takes some arm muscle if this is how you are actually going to make your pasta if you don't have a pasta roller, but you just want to make sure that you flip it. Again, we did clean and sanitize our countertops, but if you have granite or butcher block countertop, this is literally what it's made for. So you can just roll it out like that. Now I'm going to show you here on the pasta maker. All pasta makers have different sizes. So we're going to start with a 1 and roll it through, and then we'll move up to a 2, a 4, and then a 6, and that's going to get it as thin as we need it here. So we're going to start, like I said, with our 1 and roll it through. Again, if you don't have a pasta maker, you just keep going with your rolling pin. I'm going to fold this over because we want to make sure that it's getting longer and not wider. So on each setting, I usually run it through about twice. So there it goes through on the 1. Now we're going to turn it off. We're going to move it to the 2. We're going to roll it through 2 times now on the 2. If you are making like a chicken and dumplings, you could stop really at the 2. This would be the true size of like a dumpling. We go a little bit thinner in our family. So I just moved it to the 4. So now we're going to run it through again with the 4. As you can see, it's getting longer each time that we go through. Stop the heat again, and we'll go to 6. As far as making different pasta and pasta shapes, it's really whatever you like. I happen to like ravioli. Jasper likes penne. Shane really prefers like fettuccine or something like that. But all of these you can make with or without the right equipment. So that gets us now to a 6. If I were going to be making something that maybe the filling wasn't so heavy, we could go to a 7 or an 8, but because I don't want my ravioli to burst, we're going to stop at a 6. And then we're going to come over here, and this is my ravioli cutter that I got on Amazon for like $7. But the first time I did this, I did not have a ravioli cutter, and I literally used this guy. This was what my grandma used to give us our drinks for when we asked for a drink when we were staying with her. And I got them after she passed. So it just kind of depends on how big you want your ravioli. So I literally used this the first time to cut out the ravioli, and we had circles. So you could literally use a cookie cutter if you have a biscuit cutter or something like that. If it was Valentine's Day, you could use a little heart. But we got a little fancy and we ordered a ravioli cutter. So they have ravioli cutters that look like ice cubes, like an ice cube tray where you literally would just set the dough and stuff them and then put another piece on top. I don't really like that because I'm a control freak and I want to know how much is going in each little piece. But if you wanted to, let's say, do spaghetti or something at this point, then we could get out our pizza cutter. Is it over there, Grace? And I'll show you how you can use a pizza cutter. They'll sell you one on Amazon or Bed Bath & Beyond. That's a pasta cutter, but it's the same thing. So if you have a pizza cutter, you already have this. So if let's say we wanted to do long spaghetti noodles, then we could just literally come through and cut it with our pizza cutter and have spaghetti noodles right here, or fettuccine. This would be more like a fettuccine noodle probably. They do have, when you get a pasta maker or machine, whether it's one that you're cranking or an attachment like the one that we used here, they have it where they will cut it into fettuccine or spaghetti size. So you can get those, or you can do what we do and just make it work with what you've got, because you can always make it work with what you've got. So from here, what we're going to do is take our ravioli cutter and make our square. We're going to pull that out. These don't have to be perfect. If it was perfect, we'd be Olive Garden. This is homemade. It's supposed to look rustic. So we need 2 for each side. So we're going to cut out 2 here. We're going to peel those edges off. And then for our filling today, what I have is ricotta cheese, because that's my favorite. And I'll tell you, very rarely do I make what's actually my favorite around here. I'm usually making what the boys want or what everybody else wants in the family. So you can stuff ravioli with just about anything. Today we're going to use ricotta cheese. I put a little bit of salt and Italian seasoning in here, but you could do pulled chicken, you could do mushrooms, you could do spinach, you could do like a little bit of meat, ground beef, ground turkey, with a little bit of red sauce. Just whatever you are putting in here, make sure it's either cool or room temperature, because if you put like a hot meat sauce in here, it's going to start cooking the pasta, and you definitely don't want that. So this is what Grace has been working on. This is what they'll end up looking like right here. We're going to take just a little bit of the filling and put it in the middle. And then we take an egg wash, which what an egg wash is basically 1 egg and 1 tablespoon of water beaten together. And again, if you don't have a fancy brush, use your fingers. We don't have to have fancy stuff around here. And then we put this one on top, and then we just seal it up with our fingers right here. And that's it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take these over. And the thing that I love about fresh pasta is that it takes hardly any time at all to cook. So we're going to drop these in our boiling water, and we've salted the water. If you know anything about cooking Italian food, whenever you put pasta in water, it should always be salted to where it tastes like the ocean. Okay? You want to salt that water because that's the only way that your pasta is really going to pick up a whole lot of flavors, that salted water. So we're going to drop these in, and we are going to set our timer once they're all in. It's only going to take these about 2 to 3 minutes. And you don't want to cook too many at a time when you're working with something like ravioli, just because whenever you put it in the pot, it's going to bring down the temperature of your water. So as you can see, that rapid boil that I had has already kind of subsided a little bit. So we're going to put these in, and then I'm notorious in my family for not setting a timer, which has resulted in terrible chocolate chip cookies and a couple of mac and cheese problems. So we're going to set our timer here for 3 minutes. And And I've already got our sauce heating just a little bit right here. But since I am your librarian and I have your attention right now, we're going to walk over. Sophia's going to follow me. I'm going to show you my bookshelf, because what you'll notice, I have a bunch of books. I'm working my way, if you haven't seen already, through the Sequoia lists that just came out. So this is my fun reading shelf. And then these are all my cookbooks. Cookbooks have always been something that I've collected, and it really started with a bunch of them were handed down to me from my grandmothers. And then Shane's grandmother started giving me cookbooks, and now it's just kind of a thing. People, usually for my birthday, Christmas, I'm always getting cookbooks. So during quarantine, one of the things that I've done, you can see, this is my Pioneer Woman cookbook. I've tried to make a new recipe every week. Sometimes it goes over well, sometimes it doesn't go over well, but I have all these cookbooks and I thought we really need to be using them. So one new recipe every week, totally doable. This one was given to me by my best friend, Mrs. Seth, because she knows my favorite show is Gilmore Girls. So this is Eat Like a Gilmore. Every food item that was ever mentioned on the show is in here, so that's really cool. But I love cookbooks on top of regular books. So let's walk back into the kitchen. Grace is working on putting together more raviolis, because we're gonna eat dinner here in a little bit, and this is our dinner. So but we'll see our timer here. We have about 1 minute and 20 seconds left on the ravioli. This is called a spider, technically, and we're going to use this instead of a strainer, because pasta is really delicate, and you don't want to, especially fresh pasta that hasn't been dried, you don't want to tear at the pasta. And so it's easier to use a spider like when you're moving it around like this, or if you are going to be moving it from one place to another, using something like this instead of just dumping it into a strainer. And that's another thing that I think people don't realize when you're using pasta, is a lot of times we'll dump out the pasta and then dump the sauce on top. That is not how you do it. You're supposed to take your pasta from your pot to your sauce, and you put the pasta on top of the sauce instead of the other way around. And that's so sometimes your sauce is a little bit more weighty, especially if you're dealing with like spaghetti and meatballs or a marinara sauce. You don't want to dump all that weight on your tender pasta, especially homemade pasta. Okay. So we've got about 10 seconds left on our timer here, which is just about good. For these, once they've all floated to the top, you really know that they're done. So now, of course, because of what I just told you, what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to place our raviolis in the sauce. And then we can come back and boil the rest of our ravioli that we have left, again, because we don't want to put too many in the pan at the same time. Now, anytime you're doing something homemade like this, instead of buying, the process at the store, it's not going to be as pretty, and that's okay. And then we're just going to gently kind of stir it around in the sauce, not too much, because again, we don't want to tear that pasta. So what we're going to do now is grab our plate. And I know the girls don't want to taste test in front of you, so I'll show you what it looks like inside. And again, we use just ricotta cheese with a little bit of salt, and then Italian seasoning in the cheese mixture. And just like the egg, I left the ricotta cheese out on the counter for probably about 30 minutes prior to putting the ravioli, just so it would be room temperature instead of too cold or too hot. So we're going to get in here and cut into this, and you can see that cheese mixture in there and our perfectly tender pasta. It's really good. Now, again, I put Alfredo sauce on it because that's what Jasper likes. That's his favorite. But you could easily do marinara sauce, especially if you were to put like ground beef and red sauce in your pasta. And then I would make sure that you put red sauce on top of your ravioli. So it's really very customizable. So that's your tips on how to make homemade pasta. I hope you guys give it a try. If it doesn't work out the first time, try it again. It's going to take more than once to get it. And I think there's nothing better than getting in the kitchen and thinking of it as kind of like a science experiment and just trying until you get it right. If you have any questions, you can always email me, and I am more than happy. My family is huge about food. We have dinner together every night, and so this is just something that I would encourage you to get in the kitchen with your parents, with your brothers, sisters, with your cousins, and make a meal together because it's really fun. And try a new recipe this week. Bye, Chargers.